question he asked me about standing in the road while a truck runs me over, because those are two different examples.
Well, yeah, you wanted it a different way. So what you have right here before us is a concrete
But your second
way.
example doesn't work with your first way.
Oh, can you be in the same spot on the road as a semi-truck that's bearing down the road 45 miles an hour at the same time and in the same sense?
Absolutely, I can.
And you said
I will be hit
a moment
by the
ago,
truck.
you said no. And the reason that you said no is because it'll run you over.
Right.
All right?
No, I can absolutely be there. When the truck hits me, my sense and my status will change.
It'll change, so it's not the same. It's not the same sense. You said your sense would change. Okay.
We having fun yet?
So, are you with me right now?
One sec. Are you gonna be? You're gonna go to Pat and Paper Player? Yeah, I'll see you at some point. Okay.
So let's just kind of recap what we've gone over so far. All right. And we'll use a concrete example because it's silly to try and use something that we're trying to picture in our mind that isn't actually happening right now.
Try and see. Oh, shoot.
All right, so let's just
ask David something before we walk away. Okay, go ahead.
Recap real quick. All right, so far we've gone over the law of non-contradiction. The law of non-contradiction is not something that's made of matter. You can't pull 5 pounds of the law of non-contradiction out of your refrigerator. You conceded to that. Secondly, we went over the law of non-contradiction. Does it apply universally? Is there anywhere in the universe that you and I could stand where I would have a $20 bill in my wallet and not have a $20 bill in my wallet at the same time in the same sense? You said no.
It is theoretically possible. What I've said is
in
no,
actuality,
not that I know of.
In actuality,
and then I've said it is theoretically possible. We have not mapped the entire universe
that you know
yet.
Of. Okay.
Then I dragged out Schrodinger, which took me 10 minutes to get to.
Can you please give me an example of where I could have this $20 bill in my wallet and not in my wallet?
I cannot. I said I do not know of one. What I said was it is theoretically possible.
Only in your imagination, not in reality. You can't give me a hard reality. Okay, so only in your imagination.
Yes, according to the physicist who I brought up, who you said I have not heard of, said physicist.
Well, that's a logical fallacy right there. If you just want to try and call upon an authority that I'm not familiar with, I can call upon authorities that you're unfamiliar with. That's the logical fallacy of appealing to an authority. That was your point that you're trying to make. The physicist that you haven't heard of. What's most important of all is just the facts. So I asked you, what are the facts about this authority? You said this authority says that theoretically it is possible for a cat to be in a box alive and purring, and for a cat to not be in a box and purring at the same time. But what the key is, at the same time in the same sense.
Let me hold into
Those
my
are two different senses. One, a cat is purring. The other, a cat is just a dead corpse, as you brought up. So, like I said, I'm just trying to recap, get to where we are. The laws of logic are not made of material.
However,
the laws of logic apply universally, and the laws of logic are not conventions of men that we could just simply change, like we could change how we drive on the right side or the left side of the road.
Well, they are conventions.
Now, as somebody that does not believe in God, how do you account for laws of logic that are immaterial?
I don't.
Do you believe that there's more than just material in the universe?
Yes, there is energy.
Is energy not material?
Energy is not... You know, again, once you talk to physics, that gets into a gray area. There is matter, energy, equivalency, squared, all that kind of stuff. There's matter and energy, part of the same thing, part of the same subtree. Yeah.
In order for there to be matter, does there not have to be energy?
I don't think so.
By the way, may I interrupt briefly?
I'm sorry. He keeps jumping in a lot of the conversations that I have. So you got to change topic right now.
I happen to be an energy.
My question was to you. All right. How do you account? All right, so if you're open to how do you account for immaterial laws if all you believe is there's material in the universe? Are we not the byproduct?
No. See, I've already said that I believe in non-material stuff.
Yo, you do?
And your problem, yes.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Now,
I did not know that.
We already said that. You asked, is there anything besides material? I said, flat out, there's energy. Energy is not material. We are going to argue whether or not matter is...
You said that's debatable. So is energy not material?
Energy is not material.
Okay.
The motive force that is moving my arm is certainly not something physical that you can touch, going back to can you touch it. The force of gravity, an accelerated energy that's going to have this thing fall out of frame when I let it go, certainly isn't material. It interacts with material. However, the fallacy you're about to make is you're about to say...
What's the name of the fallacy?
I don't know.
How are you going to call me out on a fallacy that I'm making if you don't know the name of the fallacy?
Because at this point, you're so busy trying to define the names of your fallacies that you're obfuscating the point by trying to hang a proper label on it.
It's important.
Are
you
you
just
or are you
like
not?
a waving of the hand and say,
well, no, see, because the labels themselves are man-made.
But you don't know.
But
a moment ago, the labels themselves are man-made. That's interesting. So the label of the law of non-contradiction. A moment ago you said it's man-made.
Yeah.
Then you say it's not man-made.
No, I said it was man-made the whole time.
The universe that both existed and not existed at the same time. In the
I have said theoretically possible.
Before men showed up. Well, what you said, you're contradicting yourself. But in your worldview, contradictions are okay. There's nothing wrong with contradictions. So, do you believe that we are the byproduct of time, chance, and matter?
I have no idea what we're the product of. However,
do you believe that we're the product of a primordial soup?
I do not know if we are the product of a primordial soup. Given what I have read in the Bible versus...
I'm not asking you about the Bible right now. I'm asking you about your worldview. You're actually shifting the topic right now. You're trying to get it off of yourself. I'm asking you questions about your worldview because you haven't actually given me a framework or a paradigm for what your worldview actually is.
I don't
How do you account for it?
I am more of an agnostic.
So if you don't have a worldview, all right, and you're just merely agnostic, you're free to contradict yourself until the cows come home. How is that a logical argumentation?
I didn't say it was. As a matter of fact, if you want to back up your tape, I believe earlier I was starting to say that I would say that it is impossible to logically argue religion because religion and logic are two different things.
I didn't bring up logically arguing religion. What I'm saying is you can't even account for the logic that you're using in your worldview because you have none. You can't account for the reason that you're using in your worldview because you don't have a worldview.
Because you keep interrupting me when I attempt to go somewhere with something.
You said you don't have a worldview.
Yes, I am shortening my answers to simplify because when I try and make a reason point, building from A to B to C,
but
you interrupt in the middle of A.
You don't have a worldview that supplies for the reason that you're using.
You asked me, do I believe...
It's the principles, it's the foundations.
Do I believe in the primordial ooze? No, I do not believe
most important of all is not the evidence right now, actually.
From what I have read.
It's the worldview, all right? Because if you don't have a worldview, then you're just free to make stuff up as you go. So what is your worldview? How do you account for your worldview?
He's asked me to sum up my entire philosophy in a soundbite. And if I try and go on to a longer point...
Not in a soundbite, you can simply say, I'm a naturalist.
No, you got 10 seconds to find your worldview.
I'm a Christian theist.
And that covers everything there is to know about you.
I'm a Christian theist.
So if we find everybody else here who's a Christian theist...
Now you're mixing right now. It's a false analogy. We're not talking about evidences, we're talking about worldviews.
Okay.
Okay.
So your viewpoint as a Christian theist means that you believe
answered your question.
In God.
I answered your question. All right. So what is your worldview?
My worldview is I'm an agnostic.
Agnosticism is not an actual worldview.
Then you will force me to say that I'm an atheist.
I'm not forcing you to say anything. And
yes, you are, because you have said that being an agnostic, that's not a worldview. Therefore, what you've said is invalid.
It's not.
You are
Agnostics
trying to force
get
me
upset with me when I even consider that it might be a worldview. An atheist, I just got corrected by one of your friends, which he didn't really correct me. He missed the word that I said. I said, you have an atheistic worldview. He says, I have to correct you. There's no such thing as the atheist worldview. I said, I noticed that. I said, you have an atheistic worldview, as in naturalism, materialism, verificationism. There's atheistic worldviews, but there is no atheist worldview. And
and there is no Christian worldview.
So it's correct.
Because one other day when I came down here with Bruce, we talked to a whole bunch of Christians.
How do you know there's no Christian worldview?
I'm answering the question before you asked it.
No, you're claiming. You're making a claim. You're not answering a question. How is there no Christian worldview?
How is there no single Christian worldview? The last time I was down here with Bruce, we talked to many people who claim to be Christians, who claim to be Christians from the same church, who claim to be Christians from the same pastor, who read the same book, who claim to believe in the same God. When we asked them certain simple questions, for example, what is heaven? Every single one of them gave a completely different and contradictory answer. Heaven is love. Heaven is an abstract state. Heaven is where you're reunited with all your loved ones. What I'm saying is...
What are they based off of?
Off their own personal opinions. But you're saying Christian theist to find your worldview. My counter-argument is that if I can talk to you and 12 other Christians around here and ask you all the exact same question, there's a very high probability that you will give me different and contradictory answers. Therefore, you have your worldview based on your interpretation of Christian theism.
So you're telling me what I believe?
Said, I have an atheist.
You're telling me what I believe?
No, I'm saying you believe what you believe. The person you talked to who said there is no atheistic worldview. In his worldview, there is no atheistic worldview.
What is my worldview?
I don't know. You said you're a Christian theist.
Christian theist, all right?
But you see, that doesn't tell me much, because then we can get into questions of what is your belief in Christianity? What do you believe in?
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. We can get into all sorts of really long discussions. We could talk for the rest of the weekend.
I told you, and we'll get deeper into this, all right? I started off telling you I'm a Christian theist. Now, just because there's other people walking around with a hat on saying that I'm a Christian theist does not necessarily make that true, now does it?
But telling me what...
it could be a label on an empty bottle. What if I walked around telling people that I'm an atheist, but then I start telling people that God exists? It's contradictory. So just because you can find people that claim to be Christians, but then they contradict me, that does not by necessity make me wrong. Either one of us is wrong, one of us is right, or all of us are wrong. Now, I'm representing my Christian worldview, so we're going to go based off of what I'm talking about right now. Okay. What is your worldview? And then we can continue and discuss how we know what we know. It's a theory of knowledge known as epistemology. How do you know what you know? What is your worldview? What is your ultimate authority? I'm just trying to break it down for you.
I am my own ultimate authority.
Okay. Now, are other people their own ultimate authority?
Yep.
Okay, now, if somebody comes up to you and contradicts you, who's right?
See, that's going to depend on what they're contradicting about. If you want to contradict somebody...
If you both are saying different things, like, for instance, I'm contradicting you right now. I'm telling you that you are wrong. Now, which one of us is right? You're wrong in the sense that there is no God.
I say you're wrong. Now,
which one of us is right?
We cannot prove that. We cannot prove that logically. We cannot prove that scientifically.
Maybe you can't prove that, but I have a way of verifying it. You want to follow my
logically or scientifically?
Logically. And I'm saying you can't do science without God's existence. You believe in the uniformity of nature?
No.
You don't?
Nope.
Okay, then how do you do science? How do you do science then? Do you know what the uniformity of nature is?
Oh, please define it.
That the future will be like the past. In a nutshell, it says that if we do a scientific experiment, that the laws of science will operate tomorrow as they do today. You don't believe that's true?
Well, you see, now we're running into another interesting argument, because will the argument